Welcome back to Retro Wednesday. It's Jeremy Hanger. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about the 10 worst gifts that kids could get at Christmas back in the 80s. Now, this is based on my experience, and some of these you might actually love or really have enjoyed back then, but these are ones I did not like. And although we are collectors today and we kind of go after some of this stuff, it was a sour taste left in my mouth by some of these gifts I got back in the day. Anyway, we're going to talk about this coming up. Okay, so the first one on my list was Tiger Force. And I have to admit, I hated Tiger Force back in the day when I was a kid. Now, I still have a lot of the figures sealed because I never opened them because I did not want them. I wanted the original coloration that you saw every day on TV, not the new ones that came out. And my mom kept all those sealed on the card for me, thinking that I liked them the most when actually I despised them. Nowadays, as a collector, it's so much fun to go after these. It's kind of a fun little side mission to go on to collect this stuff. But back then, no kids really wanted Tiger Force unless they just started and had absolutely no idea what they were doing. If you were collecting this for a few years and said, I wanted to catch up on the older stuff, you didn't want the older stuff to look like Yellow and Stripes Tiger Force. Same thing with Python Patrol. So the next thing that really sucked when I would get a gift, I'd get a remote-controlled car. Now, this thing had a wire on it, and nobody wanted a remote-controlled car with a wire on it. That sucked. You wanted something that was edgy, the edge of tomorrow, the future technology, the thing that didn't have a stupid freaking wire. Actually, when you're a kid at the store, the only thing you looked at were the ones that had no wire. You didn't even comprehend they still had 70s, 60s, 50s technology that needed a cable to connect to the car when there's this wireless technology that was going on. It was really frustrating and confusing that you had to play with your toy within a 18-inch radius instead of the thing that can drive almost a mile away. Yeah, it sucked to get a wired radio-controlled car, but anything else that was wired also sucked. Next on the list is something called select converters, or let's just put it this way. Generic Transformers, generic versions of GoBots. We're talking Transformers dominated. GoBots were number 2. In my mind, very close number 2. Everything else that transformed was 77 notches down below the rest of those. And with that, select converters were not even something I wanted. In fact, if I got it for Christmas, I didn't open it and I said, take it back. This is not Transformers. This is not GoBots. Now, that might just me being a little spoiled, but, we were poor and broke, so I don't think I was spoiled. These, in my mind, sucked. Now, as an adult, I look back, I have quite a few of them. Trying to complete it, it's a little harder than you think. Sticking with the losers of the transforming robot, we got Rock Lords. And now, these were GoBots, a GoBot spinoff. I had 2 of these as a kid. And as cool as Nugget was because he was fact metalized, I thought they both sucked. I actually felt like I was ripped off by having been given these for gifts because I didn't really get into the Rock Lords movie. I didn't watch it on TV at all. And I also really didn't care for the gimmick of them turning into rocks. I liked them turning into cars and automobiles and all that kind of stuff. So much that when Beast Wars came out in the 90s, I thought Beast Wars was wrong. I thought Rock Lords was wrong. Nowadays, I love my Rock Lords collection. Next on my list is Photon. Now, there were places around that had Photon kind of games. You could go and set up and play in a room with Photon. It was kind of fun. Kind of like paintball took off in the early aughts. And it was laser in the 80s. But I even had a Photon card, but I thought Photon was lame. Photon had the wired gimmick, kind of like wired radio-controlled vehicles. This thing felt like it was old technology trying to compete with modern technology because of the wires. But I gotta tell you, I think the wires made it more reliable, made everything about it a little bit better. I still thought it was really ultra dorky. See, I was the cool kid that had to have laser tag. Laser tag actually had a cartoon, and the gun itself looked so futuristic, and it really was amazing. The helmet was futuristic, the vest was cool. Everything about this, I had everything on this. I had everything, including the... Did they have a gun that looked like the Super Nintendo gun? It did look like a Super Nintendo, the big rifle. But I had so much with this. It was way more fun, but I gotta admit, a lot less accurate and reliable than Photon, even though it looked cool. It was a lot of fun. I had to have this over Photon, and I did not want anything Photon. Plus, they weren't compatible. So, over the years, I was given a lot of books for Christmas. Books. This is one of the worst gifts to give a kid, because kids want fun stuff, not books. When a kid thinks of a book, it's like something that you're going to be forced to read this during the school year, not, oh, this is a lot of fun to get on my Christmas gift. Now, I asked my wife this, and of course I get a dirty look. She likes to read. She's got all kinds of books, but I did not like reading books like this when I was younger. Oddly enough, I like reading nonfiction. I'm impressed with nonfiction books. Can't stand fiction at all. Fiction books as a kid, to me, was a waste. Next was the Atari 5200. The Atari was really big when it was the 2600. Then they made the 5200 and then the 7800. And they made a bunch of other stuff going on there. But I think Atari 2600, once that era was over, Atari was defunct. Now, I have this system. I actually have two. I have one in the box, one loose. And I gotta say, the games are not much better than the 2600. So, it didn't feel like an upgrade to the kids at the time. And then to hook this up, and all the crazy nonsense you had to do to get this thing to work. And then the controllers sucked, and they break very easily. This was a terrible system. One of the worst systems, but highly valuable if you can get every component working. But I gotta say, this system, terrible. Everybody wanted a Nintendo or a Sega. They wanted to go forward, not backwards. The next worst gift that you can get a kid in the 80s was cheap candy. Now, I actually think of a lot of cheap candies, not just this, but I went to KB and they'd have the whole counter full of all these weird, off-the-wall candies, and you'd buy one and they would not taste like anything at all. They would literally, you're just eating chalk. And that's terrible. But I gotta say, there's more worse candies than this. But I gotta show you. My grandma bought me a Toblerone, and I thought it was a generic candy. But I was like, I kind of like this. And I developed a taste for this, and every year she'd give me another Toblerone. And then she would sneak in generic candy that was 2 years expired. We figured it out after a while. But I don't know why she thought giving us 2-year-old candy was a good idea. Maybe all her gold chocolate was expired, but I've never eaten a piece of gold chocolate. This is chocolate wrapped in gold foil. I've never eaten a piece of this chocolate that tasted good in my whole life. Every piece I've ever eaten tasted like garbage. Next were Droids and Ewoks figures. These were clearance figures nobody wanted. Everybody thought they were garbage. Nobody wanted this stuff. They were basically past their prime. The shows sucked. They were not very good. I mean, I just recently watched an episode of one of them, and yeah, not very good. Nowadays, collectors go after this. See, that's the weird thing. The stuff that goes on clearance, ultra clearance, nobody wants, becomes sought after 30 years later by collectors because it's such short run. But with this, Droids and Ewoks figures from the 80s, in 1985, yeah, nobody wanted that for Christmas. Nobody. Chia pets. These things sucked. I don't know any kid that wanted this for Christmas, but yet it was put out there as if a great gift that everybody's going to love. Kids, 90-year-old parents, grandparents, all this stuff. I did not get who wanted this. I did not understand why somebody would want to have this in their home. But yet it took off like wildfire. It was crazy back in the 80s. It was actually introduced as a product to market in 1982, and conceptually in 1977. And with that, it had multiple different forms, and it took off. Again, something I never wanted. And I got one. I didn't do anything with it. Lastly, the worst gift you could ever get as a kid is socks. But this was my wife who presented socks as the worst gift, and I agreed with her. But this will go for all the pajamas, the underwear, the t-shirts, all the clothing that you get that as a kid you expect to be just already part of your life. Like, I'm going to get new socks because my old ones are worn out. Why is that a Christmas gift? That's not a gift. That's just like air. I breathe air. I should have socks. But, if you think back on it, there's a lot of cool stuff that kids got back in the day that were clothing items. This is a picture from 80stees.com. You know the old t-shirts that had like the stripe on the edge of the sleeve and then kind of on the collar, those kinds of things. But you get all those shirts and clothing items back in the day in the 80s, and nothing was fun to get clothes. When you shook it and you knew it was clothes, you knew it was a phoned-in gift. It was a waste of a gift. You wanted toys. You wanted fun stuff. You wanted something that you could enjoy, not clothes. So socks sucked. So did clothes. So did pajamas. Ralphie didn't like his pajamas. So what do you think about my list of the worst toys that you could get for Christmas in the 80s? Am I accurate? Am I way off? But what did I leave off this list that you would want to add? Like and subscribe, and Tydirium Hanger out.